From the garbage chute. Saturday late evening. Fine drizzling rain discouraged any desire to be on the street. Therefore, Alexei, a 27-year-old guy, jumped out of the taxi as quickly as possible, jumping over puddles, ran to his entrance, opened the intercom door and dived inside. Working late again, and it's on a Saturday. But it's not scary. The long-awaited vacation is ahead, which he planned to spend in the village with his parents and with his girlfriend Alina. Climbing up to the elevator and pressing the melted plastic button, Alexei, without hitting the wall hard with his fist, cursed that nothing was working again and, taking out the phone to light the way, set off on foot. Tired from work, he slowly raised his legs from step to step, thinking about something, about his own. You had to go to the 9th floor. 2nd floor. 3rd, 4th, 5th. Alexei froze. His attention was attracted by an incomprehensible sound coming from the garbage chute. It was kind of like a baby's mooing. But, having sounded for a couple of seconds, the sound broke off, for a few more moments, echoing through the porch. The guy, shining in the direction of the hatch and, of course, not finding anything there, shrugged his shoulders and moved on. He was too tired for his fantasy to draw scary images in his head, and he would feel frightened. Therefore, he simply, just as sluggishly, trudged home to sleep. 6th floor. 7th. What's with that weird screeching noise coming from that damn pipe? Alexei, again, stopped and directed the light from the phone to the garbage chute. Everything was quiet for a moment. This rattle he heard before, but never paid attention to it, since the building was no longer new. But now the sound was louder than usual and pursued him, up the chimney. Apparently overwork is taking its toll, thought Alexei, and, already with a quick step, he moved as quickly as possible to the door to his apartment, trying to get ahead of the scratching and rustling that were still pursuing him. The 8th floor, higher and higher, and now, you can already see the familiar door. It remains to go through only one opening, half a floor in a house. But the blow of the metal door of the garbage pipe, behind him, made him shudder and freeze. Alexei was numb. The only thing that was enough for him was to turn around and direct, with a shaking hand, the phone to the side, located on the 8th floor, an already open compartment for dumping garbage. The door was still creaking slightly, dangling from side to side. Suddenly, at the edge of the beam, he caught something that was a meter away from the pipe. Directing the light, Alexei stopped breathing for a moment. Right on this very spot, in a dirty dress and with disheveled blonde hair, stood a little girl who looked about 10 years old. Her face did not express any emotions, she just looked, deep eyes, at the guy. What are you doing here?" Alexei did not finish this phrase. His gaze fell on the legs of this girl, which, in fact, were not legs. They were two backwards, pale green, thin limbs. Raising again his frightened eyes, the guy saw that the girl, slightly opening her mouth, was leading a pitch-black tongue along the fangs located instead of all her teeth and emitting a previously familiar lowing. Only now it was more like some kind of singing, or rather humming a melody. Horror and panic took over. Turning around with lightning speed, Alexei, dropping the phone, rushed upstairs. There were only a few steps to the apartment. Behind him, he heard something, whatever it was, scrambling after him. Once at the door, he frantically took out the keys and began to unlock the front door. Hands were shaking, and it was not possible to do it right away. But, finally, once in the apartment, he slammed the door from the inside on all available latches and, once sitting on the floor, began to crawl away from the door. It was the first time in his life that he experienced such horror. He with goggle eyes, looked at the handle of the door, which slowly, then lowered, then rose. Someone, or rather something, tried to get into the apartment, tried to open the door. Later there were light knocks. Alexei sat with his back against the wall and could not tear his eyes away. His phone was left lying in the entrance, but he did not have a home phone. He was trapped in his own apartment. But, apparently from the shock he had experienced, after sitting like that for a couple of hours, listening to the knocks on the door that had already stopped and to the incessant pounding of his heart, he finally closed his eyes and fell into a dream. The knock on the door sounded like a deafening volley, pulling him out of his sleep. Jumping to his feet, Alexei looked out the window, then at the clock, which showed 10:15. The doorbell rang again. Alexei walked over and looked through the peephole. It was his girlfriend, Alina. Asking, "Who's there?" and making sure that it was really her, he opened the door for her. What's happened? In terms of, Alexei was perplexed, because he had not yet managed to tell her anything. It may be clear from the outside that something is wrong. Today, at about 3 in the morning, you called me and asked me to come immediately and, for some reason, look into the garbage chute, she said. Alexei turned pale. He walked slowly to the front door, opened it and looked at the hatch, which was already closed. Did you drink yesterday? Judging by your appearance, you drank. It doesn't look like you, came from behind him, but the horror in his head was much louder. Silently approaching and taking Alina's cell phone from Alina, finding his name in the directory and pressing the call button, he raised the phone to his ear. There were beeps, and after a couple of seconds, the time to start the conversation went on the display. From the speaker there was a familiar baby lowing, humming some song.